Welcome home to USA Global TV and Radio, a place where dreams take flight, with authentic storytelling, diverse perspectives and meaningful conversations, where global stories unite and bridges are built beyond all borders. Discover world-class education, entertainment, hope and inspiration. Together, we're building bridges worldwide. Subscribe to our channel, USA Global TV. Download our app, USA Global TV. Be our guest or join our team. Visit usaglobaltv.com. Thanks to our founder and executive producer, Dr. Jacqueline Kerbeck. Music score by Yeffy Tang from Cloud Road Music. Voiceover artist Mike Porter. Creative direction by Paul Garcia. USA Global TV and Radio, your home for global connection. All rights reserved. This video and its contents are the exclusive property of USA Global TV and Radio. Unauthorized use, duplication or redistribution in any form is strictly prohibited.
Hi, welcome to the Persistence Payoff Show. We're here on USA Global TV and Radio. I'm your host, Kimberly SCHAFER. I'm the inventor of the Ring Thing, which is a waterproof patented ring holder. I'm a first-time inventor and entrepreneur, and certainly on my own journey of learning about persistence and the payoffs that it can bring. This show is focused on that quality and really learning from each other. How do people persist? Why do they persist? What can we do to share information? I think all of us face these times in our lives where we're at a decision tree where we can either give up on our goal or we can choose to persist. And so we're talking with people about how they make that decision and what leads them to persist. And it's a really inspiring conversation to have. That brings me to our guest today, Jen FLYNN. I'm delighted to have Jen with us today. For the last 15 years, Jen has been a land investor, purchasing raw land and selling it to clients all over the country. She currently owns 18 parcels for a total of about 140 acres, and most of those will be purchased or leased for solar farm projects. About 17 years ago, before becoming a land investor, Jen lived in Vietnam for 2 years and subsequently opened a foster home for girls in Da Nang. Since then, the home is still going. It's called Mary's House. The kids have thrived, and dozens of young girls have finished high school and gone on to college. Before becoming a land investor, Jen also served with MetLife as a financial advisor for 6 years, and she has led seminars for Landmark Worldwide for 5 years. She's a U.S. Air Force veteran and lives with her wife in San Diego. And I'm also very honored and proud to call her my friend. So please welcome Jen.
Thank you, Kimberly.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And you know, as I thought about our conversation today, I'm seeing three main areas that I'd love to talk about. And one is your journey with land investing. The other is about Mary's House, the foster home that you founded in Vietnam. And the third is just your own personal journey of how you came to be where you are today. And I think all three of those are connected and very interesting. So before we start, could you just give us a snapshot of where you are right now with your land investing business and also with your foster home?
Sure, I'd be happy to. My land investing business, as you say, got started in 2009 with myself investing. I was a victim of the market crash in 2008, as I know probably many of your viewers also got hit by the 2008 market crash. And my intention was to figure out how to recover my losses and then get ahead. And so I didn't want all of my money tied up in mutual funds. So I was looking at other ways to invest. And a friend of mine turned me on to land banking, which I had never heard of before. And I honestly thought I had to have millions of dollars to purchase land, but that's not the case. So I bought my first 2 properties in 2009. I still have them. They are increasing in value while I do nothing but just let them marinate. And eventually the development will be such that somebody will call me and want to purchase or lease those properties. Those will be for residential or light industrial development. And then what I've been purchasing most recently is land close to solar farms. So the land business is actually booming. I had my best year in 2024. And I think that's in part to people wanting to diversify some of their assets so they don't have everything in mutual funds through a 401k or a managed account. You can actually get into California real estate with a minimum of $25,000. So I've been able to educate quite a few people on this opportunity. And it really fits for almost any person, whether they have money in a savings account or they have an old IRA. You could actually use that money through a self-directed form. Or some people are selling an apartment building because they don't want to deal with tenants, and you can do a 1031 exchange. So I'm very grateful that I got into this business. I'm the only one in San Diego County, really, that's a land banking consultant. And I've got colleagues all over North America, and everybody's doing really well right now.
That's so interesting. And so when you mentioned that you're focused in Southern California, but it's happening all over the country. So are there similar land banks in other states around the country?
There are, yes. There's other companies that do what we do. My broker, Valor Real Estate Services, is headquartered in Woodland Hills, California, and we only look at land that's in Southern California. Partly because Valor's been, doing this for 45 years, just between California City and southern part of LA. So they're really experts in what they do. And it takes something to be able to research property, make sure it'll be sellable again in the future, make sure there's no barriers to development, things like that. So we've been asked to look at areas like Texas and Arizona, but that's not our model. We keep it right in our backyard here.
Mm-hmm. Oh, interesting. But it could be available to anyone through in any state could purchase it here in California.
That's right. I actually have clients in Japan and Canada as well. So almost anybody in the world can invest in America. It's really a great opportunity for people.
Wow.
And I've got clients I've never met. I've got a couple clients in Hawaii that found out about me through referral sources. They've purchased land. I've had clients in Massachusetts and Florida that I haven't met, also referral-based business. But they really understand, California is the fifth largest economy in the world. So it's not a bad idea to invest in that sort of opportunity.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, and I would imagine it'd be tempting to go to Hawaii and meet those clients.
I'd love to write that as a business trip. In fact, I've been trying to figure out how to do that.
I'm sure. And then thank you for that. And can you give us a snapshot also of how things are going with Mary's house in Da Nang?
Yes. And fortunately, I just returned about a week ago from a 3-week trip. I was in Vietnam for 2 weeks, and specifically in a little town outside of Da Nang called Hoi An. I was able to see the girls multiple days in the weeks that I was there. And they're just a ball of light and fun and joy and love. And I get so much out of visits there. People thank me for what my wife and I do by fundraising for Mary's house. But I tell them we get 100% of love back in return. So right now we have 15 girls in Mary's house between the age of 6 and 13. All those girls are in school, age-appropriate schools for them. They all get tutoring after school. We do the fundraising to make sure that they have all the food they need, the uniforms, some pocket money, medical care, the staff that takes care of them. So they're doing really, really well. And on this trip, I was able to have a coffee meeting with 9 of the graduates from Mary's house. And that was really great to see them. They finished college, they have a job. Some of them didn't go to college, but they're working. One gentleman now is married with twins and he's got a car. So it's really heartwarming to see how well these kids do when they're given some love and support.
Yeah. Wow. What a fantastic thing that you're doing, that you've done and are doing. And I find it interesting that both the land banking and Mary's house help other people. So you're really dedicated to helping other people, which is really, we can use as much of that in the world right now as we can get.
That's right. I have to give my mom credit because my mom's been a volunteer as long as I can remember, even when she was still working. She's retired now, but she's probably been volunteering for the Red Cross in Connecticut for about 25 or 26 years. So I think I have part of my mom's DNA.
Yes, yes. Wow, that's a great family legacy.
Yes, thanks.
So I'd love to hear just about your journey to where you are now, and and going back to, I believe that you joined the Air Force when you were pretty young, and I'm wondering if
Yes.
you can tell us about that. How did you decide to go into the Air Force, and what was that process like for you?
Sure. I was growing up in Connecticut with a younger brother and my parents. And I got into school in kindergarten, I think at the age of 4. So I was graduating high school at 17. And frankly, I didn't really have a great time in high school. I didn't realize that I was a lesbian until some years later. So I think that had something to do with me being just not like comfortable in my own skin during high school. And I had to study a lot to get decent grades. So for me, I was thinking, wow, 4 more years of this in college just doesn't turn me on. And about that time, we had a recruiter come in, probably happens all the time in high schools, and they spoke about the Army, Marine Corps, Air Force, etc. And I was an athlete. I had played soccer by then for about 8 years, very fit. And the armed services appealed to me. My dad was a Marine. I always, loved to watch Army military movies and things like that. So I went and interviewed with the Air Force because I thought that would be the best service to fit my, personality, and I could be mobile. I didn't want to be on a ship for months at a time. And I was fortunate enough in my junior and senior year, because I was taking Italian lessons. We went to Italy those 2 years on a spring trip. And that really was a huge impact on me, just to see a whole nother country outside of my little West Hartford, Connecticut world. So I knew I wanted to travel. And I figured if I joined the Air Force, that would be probably the best way that I could do that and not have to pay for it myself. So I took the exam. I scored really well on the exam. I graduated high school in June, and I was in Lackland Air Force Base in Texas for July and August. And it was a little brutal. It was a awakening, but I look back on it now, it was the best thing I could have ever done. It had me grow up quickly, become really independent, work well with a team and others. I've had a great respect for authority since the age of 17. Even before that, I had a great upbringing with my parents, but I really understood the chain of command and things like that, which helped me 4 years later when I got out of the Air Force and started to work in the business world.
Yeah. Oh, that's I love that. And I was laughing to myself when you talked about being in Texas in July and August. That's a tough.
Yeah, that was brutal. And then I went to
introduction.
Biloxi, Mississippi for computer school. I think that was like another 9 weeks. And this is in 1984. So when I say computer school, we had magnetic tape that you'd slap up on the wall and spin the wheel and do that. Kids today probably don't even know what that is really, but yeah, we did a lot of that. Optical character readers. I was trained on reading the ticker tape, like the teletype stuff, because I was transferring message traffic from base to base. So I did get to travel. My first duty station was in Tampa, Florida, which was great, but I kept putting orders in to get out of the country. And a year after I was in the service, I was able to go to Germany. So I spent my last 2 years with NATO in Germany, working outside of Ramstein Air Force Base.
Wow. Oh my gosh. That's a great, what a great launching pad, to get to go and do those things. And
yeah, it was really great.
Yeah. So you also went into financial advising, and was that after your work with NATO, or how did you transition into that?
Yeah, so I've had several jobs for long periods of time in my life. I'm 58 years old now. After the Air Force, I was in the graphic design business for a while. I started at the bottom and was working on computers, similar to what I did in the Air Force. So it was early, easy transition. But then I worked my way up into management and worked for different companies. My last graphics design job, if you will, was the senior director of operations for a trading card company called Upper Deck. And we produce trading cards right here in Carlsbad, California. And it was really an interesting job. I was able to manage photographers, artists, graphic designers. At one point, I oversaw the entire printing room. And that was really an opportunity for me to grow as a business person and learn how to manage multiple people and multiple departments at the same time. I did that up until about 2000, about 2000, 2001, and then I got laid off. And I was working about 70 hours a week at that time, on salary, of course. So when I got laid off, I was concerned about my financial planning that I had started. So I went to see my financial planner who worked for MetLife. And I said, how is this going to impact, my long-term plans? And he says, well, you can move a little money around. He's like, take some time, take a breath, take a few months off, look for jobs. And he said, you know what, if you don't find anything that is of interest to you, MetLife is always hiring people in the sales department. And I thought, I don't know anything about, MetLife, insurance, investments, etc. He says, no, you take classes, we train you, you have a mentor, the whole thing. And what he said that was critical to me is you'll be in charge of your own schedule and your own income. And that's what had me right there, because with Upper Deck, I was not in charge of my own schedule at the very least, working 70 hours a week. So I tried my hand at being a financial planner for MetLife. I got my Series 7 and 66 licenses. I got my life insurance license, and they trained me to do financial plans for people. So I kind of ran the gamut with what the offerings were. I sold life insurance, disability insurance, long-term care. I helped people put all of their data into a software system that then would spit out this information for them of when they could retire, if they saved enough money starting now, when they can retire, and how much money they would have. So they could, hopefully 30 years sooner. Sometimes it was 10 years for people if they were procrastinators, but they could plan now to meet the goals that they had. So that was a pretty fun job. And I learned a lot for my own self in how to manage my own money, in how to diversify my assets so I don't have everything in one basket. How much life insurance I should have, how much my wife should have. It was really a great opportunity for me to learn. And that job lasted until 2008. Right around that time, I got a divorce from my first wife. And so I left the financial planning business, and it was fortuitous from a timing perspective because the next half of the year was when the market crashed with all the mortgage loans and things like that. So I fortunately didn't have to deal with that as an employee, but I did get impacted as an investor. And around that time, I figured I wanted to travel. So I had a trip already booked in Asia, Thailand, Cambodia, and Vietnam. So I went on that trip. I actually took my dad with me for 6 weeks. We included Australia and New Zealand. But how Vietnam happened, it was just part of this trip that we did. And I felt an inexplicable connection to Vietnam, to the people, the country, the culture, the food was absolutely amazing for me. So after the trip, I came home and I didn't have a job. I had left MetLife. I didn't have a partner. I was totally single. We had sold our house, so I had some money in the bank. And I thought I had always wanted to do something like a Peace Corps opportunity. But what I learned is you do some training and then the Peace Corps tells you where you're needed. I didn't like that part. By then I was about 41 years old, and I was like, I'm in charge of where I go these days. So I found an organization in Vietnam that took in volunteers, and you would get some training, and then you'd go to a variety of different places to spend your time helping orphans and disabled kids. And it was life-changing for me. I was supposed to be on this assignment for 3 months. And what happened was I liked it so much. I talked to the CEO of the organization and said, if you pay my expenses, I will stay in Vietnam. I'll work for you. I'll write your standard operating procedures. I'll train the volunteers that were coming in from all over the world, and I'll help you fundraise. And he's like, you're hired. Wow. So my 3 months turned into 2 years of living in Da Nang, Vietnam. And that's where I really got immersed in everything about the whole culture. And that's how I met the owners of the nonprofit that I'm currently with, which is called Giving It Back to Kids.
Oh my gosh, what a great journey and great story. And, you know, as I'm listening through the lens of thinking about the quality of persistence, I can see that in so many aspects of what you're sharing. So going into the Air Force at a very young age and thriving, and then going to Germany with NATO, and then learning about being a financial advisor on your own, starting at the ground level with the card company, and then what you have done in Vietnam. So I'm curious to know, where do you think that quality comes from for you? Is that something that you've learned over time, or is that more hardwired into your personality?
I actually think part of it is hardwired, because I can even remember now when I was about 12 years old, growing up in Connecticut, we would have blizzards. And I would see people going out to volunteer and rescuing families out of a home when they didn't have heat, and getting them to proper places, and just all sorts of stuff that happened with blizzards, and you need volunteers. And I wrote a letter to the governor, Ella Grasso, back then. And I said, you know, I want to be able to volunteer. I see you on TV with all these people, and I want to help. And although I was 12 at the time, so they couldn't take me into that program, she gave me some great advice to find something that was more age appropriate, and find a different way that I could give back. So she didn't shut me down. I don't even remember what I started to do back then at 12, but I'm sure it had something to do with kids, because that's also a draw for me. And I've pretty much been doing some sort of volunteer work ever since. Even when I was in the Air Force, I coached kids soccer. And then I've been part of Rotary, which does a lot of volunteer work. We've been to Mexico a couple times to build houses for people. And anytime I hear of a cause, you know, if somebody's collecting blankets or they need baby care items, I have a WhatsApp in my neighborhood that I put together. We now have about 85 people in the WhatsApp. And I just put a blast out there and say, hey, we've got somebody in need. Can anybody help? And most of the time, somebody can satisfy that need, whether it's with an item, volunteer hours, money, or something. So, I mean, if I could get paid for being a volunteer, I could probably give up being a land banker, but I don't want to give up either one.
No, that's right. It sounds like you got a good combination going on.
That's right. That's right.
Yes. So going back to, so you're in Vietnam now for a couple of years, and what led you to establish Mary's House, number one, and number two, how did the name come to be? Was there a person named Mary that you were honoring?
Yep, there is. It's my grandmother. When I was in Vietnam for those 2 years, I saw a lot of different programs. So we had infants that were being adopted to America and other countries. We would help the carers, we called them mothers, feed those babies, change diapers, do that sort of thing. We had older kids that we would play soccer with or teach English to. We had disabled kids that we would do some crafts and activities with. So there was a wide variety of opportunities that I saw. And when I came back from Vietnam, that was 2010, I was involved with Landmark Worldwide. So prior, I was a participant in courses, But in 2010, I actually registered myself to become what they call a seminar leader. And I was leading seminars for other people that had done the Landmark Forum. And around the same time, I took a class as a participant, which was called Self-Expression and Leadership Program. And in this course, everybody had to come up with a project, and you were taught how to create milestones to meet the deliverables to get your project all the way through to fruition. And it requires you to enroll people in helping you either with time or money or ideas. It had you do a lot of research so you could figure out how to really get your project off the ground. And it could be a little project like gathering blankets for the homeless people, or one of my colleagues had singers go into nursing home facilities and sing during the Christmas holiday. So anything like that would be great. And what I decided to do was open a foster home in Vietnam because I really wanted to stay connected to the people in Da Nang. I did not want to do this on my own, however, because I knew about the red tape in Vietnam. I knew about, a little bit about starting a nonprofit and what that entails. And, you have to have a board and you have to pay certain fees and you have to have relationships with different government agencies in order to operate in a particular town. But I knew Robert and Dorothea Kalachin, who founded Giving It Back to Kids, and they already had the nonprofit. So they only lived about 2 hours north of me here in California. So one day I called Robert and I said, look, I have this idea. I'd like to open a foster home in Vietnam, but I don't want to start it from scratch. I don't have the wherewithal or the capacity to do that. And he said, it's kind of ironic that you called me today because a week ago, the Vietnamese government called him and said, we have a building that we're willing to give to you. And we have street kids, if you will, that are in need. Could you open another foster home? And Robert really wanted to do that, but he didn't have money in the budget. So I said, we're in like FLYNN. I said, if you get the building and start interviewing the kids, so we get the kids situated, Lauren and I will do the fundraising and we'll get a foster home started. So I named the foster home Mary's House because my grandmother on my mom's side, who I was very, very close to, was named Mary. And she inspired me to travel. She would take me on the bus and we would go from Connecticut to Pennsylvania, or we'd go to New York City. She was the first person I told that I wanted to join the Air Force when I was 17 years old. And I wanted to honor her in some way. So we have Mary's House now. It's been operating. We're now in our 13th year. And we've partnered with Robert with Giving It Back to Kids. So they run the nonprofit day to day, all that stuff. And Lauren and I are accountable for the fundraising and sending the money over there to take care of the girls. So it's been a really, really good partnership.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. You talk about divine timing or whatever you want to call it. Like the fact that you would call him just as he's getting this call from the government. That's that was meant to be.
It was, meant to be.
Yes, absolutely. So while you're doing that, did that sort of overlap with when you got involved with land investing?
Let's see that. So I started land investing. I bought my first 2 properties in 2009 while I was living in Vietnam. I actually happened to be in the States on vacation, and that's when my friend introduced me to the whole concept. So I had purchased 2 properties. I was looking to buy a rental property in California, but I didn't want to manage that from Vietnam. I thought that would be an absolute nightmare. So I was able to invest in California property as a land banker. Then when I came back from Vietnam, there was a retired Air Force colonel who took me on a tour to see the 2 properties that I had invested in. And they were both in Lancaster, California. And, when you get a tour from a retired colonel of the U.S. Air Force and you spent 4 years in the Air Force, you kind of listen to what the man has to say. And I figured if this was good enough for him, it's good enough for me. So he took me on the tour through Lancaster, and I saw the development and the number of homes that were being built and the streets that were being widened and paved, et cetera. And I thought, wow, this is just a genius business model. So I started working part-time with my friend that introduced me to Valor and land banking. Had no intention at first of getting my real estate license. I thought that would be the biggest headache ever. And then I just started making too much money, frankly, and I couldn't keep it all because I wasn't licensed. So I was only being paid like as an assistant. So finally I gave in. I ordered the books. I did the study. I went and took the test. I passed the real estate license test. And then I was able to make the same commission that my buddy was making. And then I went to the home office of Valor and did my presentation for the owners of the company. And then I got passed on that as well. So then I was able to make even a better commission. So since 2011, I've kind of been at the top of the commission level and doing very well for myself.
Yeah, that is fantastic. Well, first of all, congratulations. And again, it's interesting timing that you would have been getting a tour in Lancaster from this retired colonel. And it's just like, I think it's also important for any of us to be open to those signs in our life, right? Like things can happen and we'll say, oh, that's nothing. I don't need to listen to that. But you actually, at multiple steps, listen to each of those messages.
Right.
And I think that's very powerful.
Yeah. And I think that's actually one of the great things that you bring up, Kim, is that listening is one of the skills that I'm continuing to develop, as an adult. Is once you listen to somebody, you can figure out how you can support them, whether they need a land parcel or whether they want to open their own nonprofit or whether they need a plumber. I listen for things like this and I'm like, oh, I know, 3 plumbers because of these issues that we've had with our own house. Why don't I just put the 2 of you together, sort of thing. So I really do like to listen and help people satisfy issues or help educate people.
Yeah, that's such a beautiful and powerful quality. Like, again, just to repeat myself from earlier, it's like we need more of that in our world where people are willing to help each other and hear each other and see each other. So I think that's, you're demonstrating that not only in business, but also with Mary's house. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. And congratulations. Thanks. And I'm curious to know, like in your business, if a potential client calls you and says, I'm interested in purchasing a piece of land, does the listening come in and that you're listening for, do you match them based on how much they want to invest? Or do people come in with an idea of like, I only want to invest in something that's going to become a solar farm, not a residential area? Or how do you pair people with land when you work with your clients?
That's a really good question. I don't even talk to people about money, like how much they want to invest on an initial consult call. I make sure that they understand what land banking is and that it could be a long-term, like about a 10-year investment in some cases. And I have them tell me what interests them about land. Like, why did they call me in the first place? And most of the time what they'll say is, oh, a friend of mine invested with you and it sounded interesting, so I wanted to hear more. So I'll ask them some questions like that. Do they own any rental property, or do they have diverse investments right now? Any experience with investing? And then I'll tell them a little bit about land investing and that they can start with as little as $25,000. And if they're still interested, then what I do is a 50-minute webinar for them. So they get all the pros and cons about being a land banker, land investor. They know where we purchase land, how we do the research for the land. They know what some of our other clients have purchased and sold for. So they have some actual examples of what they can expect for over time. And then, they see the presentation. If they want to take the next step, then I listen for how much they want to invest. And at that point, let's say they want $100,000 property. At that point, I go to Valor and I say, I have somebody that's got this budget, and I wait for a piece of inventory from the company. And then I'll highlight that property for the potential investor. And if they want to move forward, then we take the next steps.
All right. I like that, because what it feels like is that you're pairing people and facilitating. It's not so much that you're doing a hard sell of, oh, I've got this great piece of property and you've got to have it right now. It's
Right.
what are you looking for and how can I help you get that?
Exactly. Yep. Because
like
people don't need to invest in land. It's not like you need a place to live, so you may need to buy a house or you need to rent. This is an alternative investment, which a lot of people don't know about. So I tell people straight up front, I want to educate you about land investing. I go to businesses like real estate offices, lending offices, even financial planning offices, and educate those people on alternative investing. And then they do with that information what they want. If they want to send people my way, great. If they just want to kind of keep it in the back of their mind as an option for the future, that's okay too.
Yeah. Wow. I really like that. I really like that model. I know we have just a few minutes left, and I'm really curious to hear from you. Like, you've worked with so many people in so many different ways, through your financial advising, Mary's House, the military, your land banking business. Have you noticed any commonalities or similar qualities across people who have succeeded in achieving their goals? Are there any couple things that jump out at you?
Yeah. And, in thinking about being on your show today, I actually looked up the definition of persist. I knew what it meant, but I didn't know from the actual definition. And a couple things I think are requisite to answer your question. So definitely people that can knuckle down and dig in. And this was actually part of the synonyms for the definition.
Mm-hmm.
They follow through, they hang in there. And those are the people that I have seen that persist time and time again, whether, it's multiple businesses like I've had, or it's one phase of their life, like a medical challenge. If you can persist and knuckle down and dig in, you can really alter your future. I really believe that, you put it out there and things are going to happen. So I'd say that's probably the biggest common denominator, is people who are go-getters and they just do not let up.
Yeah, that's a great. I had been meaning to put a picture behind me. I've decided that my own spirit animal is a woodpecker, just because they don't give up. They keep going.
Yeah, they never give up.
No,
especially when you're trying to take a nap.
Yes, so I try not to be as annoying as a woodpecker, but that quality of, I think you're absolutely right, of just keep going until you don't quit. Achieve.
Somebody's got a great quote about failure. If you don't fail multiple times, you're never going to succeed in your life. So failing is okay. It's a learning process. It's totally okay to fail as long as you get back and try again.
And keep going. I absolutely agree with that. I totally agree with that. I was listening to a podcast yesterday with Karch Corrali, the former pro volleyball player, and he said something that's really been on my mind today. I'm not going to say it exactly right, but basically they were talking about, does he get nervous before big matches? And he said, of course. And he said, if you never get nervous or you never get scared, you never need courage to push through it. And I was like, that has just stuck with me. I find that really powerful.
It's really great advice. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, yes. Definitely. You should be a little scared in life, because otherwise the game's not big enough.
Mm-mm. No, I totally agree with that. Yes. Well, before we let you go, could you let us know how people can connect with you if they're interested in getting more information or just connecting with you for about Mary's House or land investing?
Sure. The best way is to either connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or you can email me at jen@jenflynnland.com. I'm very responsive to social media. So if you start a conversation with me there, then we can exchange numbers, and I'll see how I can support you and give you the information that you'd like to have.
All right. Great. All right. Thank you so much. My gosh, this has been so interesting and a fantastic conversation. I really appreciate your being here and your time and sharing your story is really inspiring.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been my pleasure. I really appreciate the opportunity to be here today.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks. Oh my gosh, I actually have goosebumps from some of the things that we talked about. So that was fantastic. We are here on USA Global TV and Radio every other Tuesday at 12 o'clock p.m. Pacific time live. And then you can watch the show anytime on YouTube on USA Global TV and Radio channel. You can reach me through the Ring Thing. My website is ringthing.com. And my email address is Kimberly@ringthing.com. And also the Instagram is @ring_thing. And you can find the Instagram link also on the website. So please feel free to reach out to me. I would welcome that. And, I end every show with a quote about persistence. And it's really interesting to me. I pick the quote and I never really know exactly how the conversation is going to take us or where it's going to take us. And it seems like the quotes always fit really well. And so today, the quote that I had selected is from James Dyson, who said, "There is no such thing as a quantum leap. There is only dogged persistence. And in the end, you make it look like a quantum leap." And I feel like that fits really well with our conversation today with Jen. So I wish you all well. Keep at whatever your dreams or goals are. And I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks. Thank you.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence. Building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the secrets of visual impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.
Thank you, viewers and listeners of USA Global TV and Radio, for joining us today. We're honoured to have your time and attention as part of our global community. At USA Global TV and Radio, we believe in the power of authentic conversations, meaningful connections, and creating a world of possibilities together. Want to be part of something bigger? Join our team of elevated listeners at usaglobaltv.com, a space where your voice matters and your ability to listen transforms relationships. Stay connected with us across all our platforms for thought-provoking discussions, expert insights, and empowering stories. Subscribe to our channels at youtube.com/c/USA Global TV. follow us on social media and explore the endless opportunities we're creating for growth, learning and inspiration. Together, we're not just broadcasting, we're building bridges and changing lives one conversation at a time. For inquiries, contact us at info@usaglobaltv.com. Music by Johnny Dyes. Produced by Executive Producer and Director Dr. Jacqueline Kerbick. Voiceover by Mike Porter. Creative Direction by Paul Garcia. All rights reserved. Copyright 2025. Visit usaglobaltv.com to view our full terms and conditions.